All right, happy Monday. We're really excited you guys are here. And I want to give a tiny little backstory on what got us here. So it's going to be a little bit of a different format this evening. Think of it like a TED Talk with me and Paige and Penny and all of you guys where you get to share at the end. And it kind of got here because we've been all asking the question over the course of however many months, like, what do we do? What are we doing differently? What do we do well, what can we reevaluate? And we always have questions. And so to get us set up and thinking in the mind frame of where we're going, let me back up. It was the Brené Brown who saw both her lives today, or not but the videos. Did anyone see those? Okay. They're really good. If you've seen them, it's not bad that we're redoing it because we're not just taking from that. We've taken from our experiences. And there's been a lot of trainings and books we've read recently that are like kind of connected. And then when I heard that the Brené Brown thing today, everything just kind of solidified, and we're like, this is what we kind of need to talk about. And if you've heard it, I like to hear things 3 times. One time I listen just with my eyes shut, distracted, doing something. Watch both Brené Brown things today. You'll still get something from this. And if you haven't, after this, I encourage you to watch it. So there's going to be some interaction. So when we ask questions, you can either just pop it into the chat or unmute and yell it out loud. Products. Think someone comes to you and they say, okay, take 2. In this business, we all have the same things. We have the same products. We have the same opportunity to get knowledge, but we are different. Okay, so same product, same opportunity. So when something's not going right, we can look at us, right? So that's the first thing we have to admit as true. Think of your customers. So when you think of this, your customers have the same products, they have the same knowledge and opportunity. When something goes wrong and your customer comes to you and says, this isn't working, what do you tell them? This is a speak out loud moment. What are the things that's going wrong?
No, I put it into dishwasher that weird.
Anyone. So if your customer comes to you and says, my products aren't working, what do you say to them?
Usually I'll say, okay, let's kind of give you a little bit of a rundown of how your routine is going. What are your doses of everything? How much water are you drinking? All the things.
Yep.
I want to get a picture of all of that. Yes.
Perfect.
Sorry, Paige.
So we can put that all in the category of they're maybe not taking it properly or they're not being consistent. Those are 2 things. There's 2 other things that might be wrong. Can anyone think of what they might be?
What is their food like? What are they eating?
Yeah. One could be length of time. Like if they got it on a Tuesday and they're on Friday, they're not working, you're like, it's been 3 days, right? So the amount of time. And confidence. Yes, confidence in what you've offered. That's kind of, consistency in diet. But when I saw confidence, I got excited because I think that's the thing. Their confidence in themselves, their belief in themselves. What we speak over us is true. If we start a product saying this is garbage, this doesn't work, I don't believe in this, there's going to be all kinds of things that happen that might not be successful, right? So they need to be committed to the process. They need to have belief. They need to give it time. They need to be consistent and take it properly. If you're not seeing business results, you might not have given it enough time, right? You might not be doing things like properly. Your mindset not be right. It's actually not that different. There's a lot of the things that when we're telling our customers, if we're struggling in business, we can speak it right back to ourselves. So in the chat, for sure, write it on paper or put it in your mind. But if you're brave in the chat, I want you to put down what is the thing out of those 4 categories maybe are you seeing the biggest struggle in? Is it your lack of belief? Is it your consistency in doing stuff? Is it doing things properly? Are you taking shortcuts or like doing the wrong things? Like this is going to hurt people's feelings by creating Canva graphics And being in chats doesn't actually give you a paycheck. So are you doing the right kind of work? And have you given yourself enough time? So is it belief, consistency, time, or just right things? Pop in the chat and just think to yourself, what is the thing that you need to work on the most? Let's read some of these out here. Yeah, consistency, belief, mindset, committing to the process, belief fluctuates. Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to tackle some of the belief today, some personal stuff. It might hit a little deep, and that's in a sense what we're going to cover. So, sorry, just checking my notes here. So in 2024, just to give you a bit of my backstory, what kind of brought me here is I realized I needed to pivot and do things differently. Now, the market's always changing, things are fluctuating, and we're changing and learning and growing and getting teams and adding people. So we need to change too. So I had lots of wins, lots of failures, and I really started to dig in. And I feel like January 2024 to June was like a lot of pruning, a lot of growth, a lot of slowing down to speed up, a lot of those types of things. And then from maybe the summer to the end of the year, there's a lot of really intense, busy, crazy things, and you're just kind of trying to keep it going, right? As we go through this season of growth, I think a lot of us are doing the social media challenge. A lot of us are doing book study. A lot of us are doing a lot of things. And in January, I really reflected on, okay, so what do I need to really do to get to the next level? And so that's kind of what's been getting me thinking about what we wanted to talk about tonight. So when I talk about your business, one of the things that I came to in January, when I talked about feelings, I had a feeling of maybe I was holding too tight, that I was trying to control. And I had to really surrender. I had to really give that up. So that's been the journey I've been on this year. When I ask you about your business, what are the feeling words that come up for you that are getting you stuck? It could be any feeling word, but what are some of the feelings? Again, you can say it out loud or you can just pop it into the chat. What are the feelings, the feelings that come up for you that are holding you back? Overwhelm? Yeah. Anyone else? You can shout them out too. Scared, disappointed. What if I can't lead a bigger team? Anxious. So what if yeah, those are all really good. Yeah, anxiety is a big one. So as I talk, you can keep popping them into there. It's good to kind of get behind. So fear of not knowing how to serve. A lot of these fall into a fear or anxiety or lack of belief in some area. Like no matter what they are, they kind of fall there. So before we go too much farther, Penny, are you on now? You jumped in? Penny's going to read a quote by Theodore Roosevelt that I think we've all heard. Go ahead, Penny.
Okay. The title is The Man in the Arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who, at the best, knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat.
Thanks, Penny. So with that, and if you saw the thing today, you're not going to be surprised that we're going to be talking about shame and vulnerability, two areas. So as you think about all the things you've shared, more good ones are coming in: mindset, What did Monique write? It was good. Mindset, lack of confidence, overwhelmed, unworthiness. Absolutely. Those are good ones. As you think of all of these things, what do you think is one of the fundamental needs of every single human on earth? Beyond food, water, clothing, what is a fundamental need? Connection. Yeah. Connection. Now, I want to just take you back to think about this. Acceptance. Absolutely. Acceptance, belonging, connection. If you lived even 500, 700 years ago, biblical times, if you were not connected and accepted in your community, you would probably not survive. You needed to be with people for food, for trade. If you were sick, you couldn't just solo parent yourself and be like, okay, well, I'm going to put Netflix on for Junior and take this one to the urgent care. You needed to know the person who had the right herbs and the right this, and you needed to know the person who could do all of the things. So at a fundamental core, back in the day, we needed to belong. We needed to have that acceptance for our survival. Now, even though we're so far past that, we're still connected to that. As human beings, that's still a lot of how we're wired. We're still wired for connection. And that's why if you've listened to a lot of these different coaches talk about it, but when I was in university, this is actually what I studied. I studied brain behavior. So it fascinates me, but that's what a lot of the coaches now say. If you're afraid to make a post or afraid to talk to someone, your brain can't differentiate between that and the fear of like falling off the edge of a cliff, because it's all about survival. So in that way, we're built for connection. So back then, what people thought of you mattered. Think about some of the people in the Old Testament and think about some of the just historical things. When people judged you, you had a hard life, right? There's a lot of historical figures we could point to, not even that long ago, right? Where who you were would mean people would or wouldn't give you things. You could have access or deprivation of access of stuff, right? So in a sense, what people thought of you mattered. Now, it doesn't carry the same weight, but we still have that emotionally. So when we think of the words we talked about, fear, anxiety, and we talk about shame, and we look at unworthiness, we need that connection. So connection, the thing that keeps us from connection can be an underlying sense of a lack of vulnerability. What vulnerability, I want to talk about what it's not, because I think we misunderstand, I think, what it is. So vulnerability is not fake humility. And I've seen this over and over. Like I still remember at this one gathering I was at, and someone, was like, oh my gosh, you look so good. And they're like, oh, just kind of rolled out of bed, and she was like the diva that hauled all the stuff, right? And we were all the hot mess mamas with the little toddlers, and she was like put together, and she's like, oh my gosh, I've had such a rough morning. And you're like, don't say that. Like, don't say that, right? There's all kinds of people that have this fake humility, and you can smell it. Like you can totally smell it. I still remember when we were talking about this, I was new on Facebook, I guess. And people started talking about when I came up into Facebook, a lot of people were saying perfection was not the way. Before that, things were very curated. I kind of missed that phase, but things were very curated, very perfectionist looking. And people were saying people are going to trust you if you can't do it perfectly. And so this one gal that I know, she went on and she was always doing food things. She was a huge foodie, recipes, all this stuff. And she burnt and ruined something that she never should have ruined. And then was like, oh my gosh, like, see, I'm totally not perfect. I can't believe I made a huge mess of this. And I run a business. If I can, you can too. And it was like giant eye roll, because you're like, how could you mess up Rice Krispie squares? That feels like something you probably shouldn't have messed up, right? Whatever it was. And so vulnerability is not a fake humility. People will not trust you. If you look amazing and you say, what, this whole thing, people aren't going to trust you any more than if you brag or you lie. Right? Vulnerability is not self-degradation. It is not putting yourself down to make other people feel better. That is not that. What vulnerability is being honest from where you are. So she connects this. Wait, I don't want to get ahead of myself. She talks about this later on, I guess, about courage, but vulnerability is being brave enough to just be who you are, to just be who you are. So before we get into that, we're going to get into a story right away, but I want to rate yourself on your belief. And here's what I want you to think about. Brené Brown, if you don't know who she is, I've read her book. Her most popular book is, I Think, Daring Greatly. I've never read that one. I've read Atlas of the Heart because I love the nerdy science stuff when it comes to emotions, only emotions. And so she goes through the heart and the heart emotions, and she's a researcher. So she'll do all kinds of research in all kinds of areas to be like, okay, what is the common theme here? So she did this with the idea of sense of belonging. Those who have the strongest sense of belonging and worth were those who believed they were worthy of love and belonging. And her book, Atlas of the Heart, talks greatly about this. So I just want you to sit with it. Okay. They believed it. If you asked me right now what the color of the sky was, I would say blue. And if you're like, are you sure? Go check. I wouldn't check. I know that it's blue. I don't have to ask myself twice. If you're like, no, right now it's purple. And if you were my next door neighbor, I'd be like, no, it's not. I can see, like, I know it's a belief deep down that I don't have to question. Do you have that level of belief in yourself? Like, not just saying it to make yourself feel better. Do you have that level of belief? So again, if you want, rate yourself in your head, or if you're brave, put in the chat 1 to 5. Where's your belief in yourself and your ability to this business scale of 1 to 5? And as you're thinking that through, we are going to interrupt the TED Talk for a story kind of connecting to all this. And I believe that's you, right, Penny?
Yeah. Yep, that's me. Okay, so I think I've shared a little bit about this before in other areas, but my stories on shame and vulnerability are, and I don't know if anybody else feels like they're a big fat mess all the time, but I feel like I just get over one thing and then it just throws you back into something else when something triggers it, right? So I'll just start with, when I started with Plexus, I was never going to do another network marketing company. Like, that was not happening. This one was the 4th network marketing company, or MLM, that I had joined for the products. Diane had helped me really see the benefit in actually doing it to get my products paid for. But when she walked through the compensation plan with me, I thought, well, I could help. I'm staying home with the girls, and Jim's bringing in the income he was bringing in, which wasn't a whole lot at the moment. And there was just a whole lot of things going on. And so I wouldn't go down that road too far. I just wanted to make it to silver so that my products were paid for. And the whole reason is because all I could hear in my head was my mom, whose voice is always the loudest, it seems. And I'm always telling her just to sit down and be quiet because I have things to do with my life. But I would just hear her say, this isn't you. This doesn't fit you. It doesn't fit your personality. You're never going to be able to follow through with it. And I saw my brother-in-law's very disdainful face when I had to, well, I'm just being very vulnerable right now, but I had to file for bankruptcy in my 30s when I had joined a network marketing company, and the way that their plan was all set up, it just did not end well. So watching his face, that was a whole lot of shame. And he shamed me while I was sitting in his office. He's my financial person. So that was humiliating. And it was hard to overcome that. So I was not doing this again. Even if they say, oh, the products will just get shipped right to you or whatever, right? So that was really hard. And then watching a friend of mine look at me after traveling that road with me, and then when I told her I was going to do Plexus as a business again, well, she didn't hide how she felt about that. But I just thought, you either listen to the voices in your head, or you allow those things to kind of come at you and hold you back from what could be a great future for you and your family. And then you hear the things that kind of switch that off in your brain. Like, they're not paying your bills. They're not putting your kids through college. They're not living your life. You are living your life. So if you really believe that you can do this, even a little bit, like just like a mustard seed of faith that you can do this, then all those shameful feelings need to take a back seat. And so that's what I did. And flash forward a couple of years, because it didn't happen right away. Like I think I went silver in 6 months, but I don't even remember. I wasn't keeping track because I wasn't doing this as a business. And so then when I finally decided that, yeah, I could actually do this, I listened to Brittany Howard talk to her team right after she had become Diamond. And my first thought was, well, she can do this. I can do this. And I connected with her. I related to her. And with like I signed up 6 that month. And I think the next month I went senior gold. And so I had a team now underneath me. And I thought, I can do this. I can do this. And then, like very many bumps in the road, things happen. And people who don't have that same kind of belief that you do start to drop away. And I can see how it all happened. I know that I probably needed more than what I had at the time, but you do what you know at the time, and then you learn from it and hopefully do better in the future. So I lost my team, and I started thinking again, I hear those voices again. Oh, this isn't for you. See, you can't stick with anything. And you can't show up properly. And then, so all of these things, the mind games and the voices, and then another friend coming up and saying, how many years have you been in Plexus? And, where are you at with it? And what's your rank? And you just look at them and think, okay, this is part of the plan. This is part of it. I am learning. And my new team is coming. And it's going to be amazing. And if I don't have that belief, then I might as well just pack it in and take off, because there's no point in staying. But when it really is true that when your why, like I'm sitting here in my little office space, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is a picture of my girls when they were little. And I'm looking over at that picture and I'm thinking, they're not little anymore. And they have opinions and they're watching me. And so what am I going to do with all of the things that come at me that will shame me and keep me down and keep me from the goals that I have set for myself and for my family? Like, am I going to let those things take over, or am I going to believe that I am who God says I am and how he created me to be? So that's my story. I'm still living it. It's starting to, there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and it's how you handle the things that come at you, recognizing your personality type, how you normally handle things, and just lots and lots and lots of prayer and support from people who actually get it. And that's what keeps you in the circle. But to let what was it, Shelley? Shame and what was the other thing? Oh, I just lost it. Oh, vulnerability. So to keep all of that stuff to yourself and not share it doesn't get you very far, because the minute you say, that's it, I'm thrown in the towel, you've got 5 people saying, no, you're not, because this is what you said and these were your goals. And anyway, that's a little bit of my story. That's where I'm at. So there you go.
Thanks so much, Penny. So Penny hit on 2 things, and this is what Brené Brown talks. She talks about heavily in her book, Atlas of the Heart. And if you're at all interested in how this works together and you like the research end of emotions, you should really, it's a really good book. It's big, but it's good. So there was 2 things that people have in common that felt connected and had a sense of worthiness. And it was 1, they had courage, and 2, they learned to embrace life fully. So courage, she defines, and she goes through this in her, in the 2 things today. Courage is based on the word cor, which originally means whole heart. So to have courage is to tell the story of yourself with your whole heart. Courageous, to be imperfect. Compassion, to be kind to yourself first and then others. And as a result, connection will come because of authenticity. So authenticity is letting go of who you think you should be and embracing who you are. I'm going to read that again. Authenticity is letting go of who you think you are or of who you think you should be and embrace who you are. Now I'm going to be so honest with you guys and be honest with yourself. Every time we hear a Diamond Talk, every time we see Diamond Talk documentary, every time we go into a group like this, that social challenge is the social media one with Lori, whoever, it's really good. So interesting, lots of great nuggets. But then you start reading the comments and all you see, or not all you see, it's probably 50-50, but a lot of people are suddenly losing their authenticity and taking on the identity of another. How Marge got diamond is not going to be the way Sheila goes diamond. That's not going to be the way I'm going to go diamond. It's not going to be the way Trina's going to go diamond, because you have to be authentic. And to let go of that is hard. It's hard. And here's how it works. Think of little tiny you, little tiny Trina and little tiny Barb, and you have who you are and your little tiny personality. This is why personality tests go. Think of when you're a child and think of that like as the center of your onion, just like we talk about plexus. And you have your needs and you go to your mom and your dad for this and that, and you have all of the things that you need and then you love and you desire. And over time, traumatic things happen. People get in your way, they laugh at you, they make fun of you, and you learn, oh, in order to survive, I need to do this. And then you have another layer of, oh, in order to survive, I need to do this. And then another layer. And you become an adult and you don't actually know who you are anymore, because you have all these layers and little tiny you is like buried underneath. And it's like peeling back the layers to get to yourself, right? So when you're hearing other people, you can't be authentic by copying them. You can do, but you can't be who they're being. Now, let me explain this. I went through this stage when Fred was out of town. I went through the stage when I couldn't sleep, or when he used to do snow removal at night, it'd be like 3 a.m. and he was supposed to be home at 1 and he wasn't. I would go on YouTube or Instagram like most people do. And my thing was watching cake videos. I wanted to make cakes. Now, I don't really eat cake. I decorate 2 a year, one for each of my kids' birthdays. Well, more than that, I do all my siblings and stuff too. But I only use buttercream. I don't believe in fondant. And so I love watching cake videos. There are so many women doing cake videos. I found a girl I love. She's Sav's Got Cakes, and you love her or you hate her, because as she's decorating, she is so excited and she's telling stories like a 10-year-old, and she has all this weird, bizarre commentary. And you're either like, shut up, this is immature, I just want to hear the technique, or you love, love, love her. But she's got like tons of followers. There was some movie that came out and Blake Lively actually messaged her and said, could you make a cake for me? Like, she's kind of getting to be a big thing. It's not that she's showing a different technique. It's not that she's doing something so unique. She's just showing up as her. She's showing up as her. So listen to what people say, but as you're doing it, show up as you. And don't look at someone else and go, oh, but they do it so much better, because they just do it differently and they're going to attract their people, and you're going to do it your way and you're going to attract your people. Like, you're not going to be successful if you have this fake thing about you. So the vulnerability piece, so that's courage and the vulnerability piece. What does it mean to fully embrace this? The willingness to do something first, bravely, and not knowing the result, not knowing what people are going to say. If, and I've seen this on team calls, and I've seen this in meetings, and I've seen this different places. Someone says something and no one wants to admit thing, and everyone's thinking either I didn't do the homework or I didn't understand it. No one says anything. The first person to go and they're like, I didn't get it, then it's easier to say, yeah, me neither, I didn't get it either. But being the first one, that's vulnerable. Like being authentically vulnerable in the moment, understanding that what makes you vulnerable, what makes you beautiful. We're not all going to understand everything. And the willingness to feel the hard moments, to sit in the hard moments, to sit through the pain and to experience them. And we're going to unpack this a bit. But before we do that, Paige is going to share her story. If it's a good time. If not, we'll keep talking.
It's great. It's like all my kids just came in and I'm like, can you just like get out? Anyway, I love ya. Bye. Sorry, I do love my family. Just anyway. Okay, so sorry, I've shared a little bit this with a few leaders, and it's, oh gosh, this is like a really, when I prepared tonight, this is not an emotional topic, but apparently it is. So just like, we're gonna be okay. Um, vulnerability, well, my story, I'll tell you a recent one that we're walking through right now. My husband lost his job of 20 years over a 5-minute phone call. And immediately, I don't know if this has ever happened to anybody, but it just a flood of thoughts immediately follow. Like some days you're way up here and some days you're like, yes, this is totally okay. Everything's fine. And then the next hour you're like, everything is not fine. It's not fine. And it's been a wild ride. It's only been 2 months, but we've had conversations with people in our world because networking is like somebody's going to have a guy who has a cousin who has a brother's wife's uncle who needs a guy. And so we network a lot and we talk a lot to people. And it's quite interesting because I also talk a lot about Plexus. I do. People know that I am the Plexus girl. And I love that. I love that part. We also have we have an Airbnb in our basement, a small Airbnb. And in these conversations with our friends, they say, "Oh, I bet you're so glad that you have your Airbnb business." And I think, yeah, super glad, but also super glad that I have my other business, my Plexus business, that I know darn well you know about because you watch my stories. But I just find it very shocking. But at the same time, I'm just going to walk you, this is very messy. I'm just going to walk you through the thoughts because immediately you think, yeah, I'm super glad for my Airbnb business. Why isn't she asking me about my Plexus business? Am I not showing up a certain way or am I not showing up? Like, am I not putting out good content? Am I not relating to anybody? Is she thinking my business is no good because I'm not making a certain dollar amount? Am I okay because I'm not at Emerald yet and I should be? And you feel vulnerability, you feel shame, you feel like you're just standing there naked while people are talking to you about what a horrible experience you're going through. And I guess, with any kind of loss, they try to find the right words. There's really no right words to say. There really isn't. It's just a big mess is what it is. But I love what Penny said, like this is part of the plan. Like we are growing, we are learning. It doesn't matter that I'm not a diamond yet. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And so I like toss and turn with these feelings, but being willing to sit in the hard moments is part of the journey. And I'm not very good at it. I want to be up and moving and doing and like what's the next step and step 3 and this is the next day and this is the next day. And so the willingness to feel the hard moments and to sit there, that's hard. That is very difficult for me. And I'm learning that about myself. It's just tricky. And but I think at the same time, yeah, do I need to feel shame? Do either of us, my husband or I, do we need to feel shame in what has happened and what is happening in our world? Not at all. It doesn't make him a bad guy because his boss made a business decision. No, it doesn't make him a bad guy at all. It doesn't make us bad people. It doesn't make us anything. And it doesn't say anything about who we are as people and what we're capable of or what we're worthy of or anything like that. So just being willing to feel the hard moments and sit and breathe through them is incredibly difficult. And then the willingness to embrace something without a guarantee it will work out. I'm like, sure, it will work out up here. Like I can picture a diamond. I can picture it. And then there's like that like teeter-totter where it's like, but Paige, where's your team? Right? And it's like that little, your brain has to be like, shush, shush, just take a back seat for a hot minute. And it's so easy to say, and it's very difficult to coach yourself through that, which is why I have many chats with many friends to coach me through it. But it's just, it is what we're walking through right now. And do I have faith that everything will work out? Absolutely. But bottom line, it doesn't say anything about me or my husband, and it doesn't say anything about our business or my business, whether people acknowledge that I have a business or not. I know you're watching my stories. I know you follow me for a reason. And anyway, it just is a very mindset thing. So anyway, I don't have a glorious way or a glamorous way of wrapping that up. I'm sorry, but that's that.
That's perfect. That's a perfect way. That is absolutely perfect. So thank you for sharing that, Paige, and Penny earlier. So she talked about vulnerability and shame. Now, vulnerability here's kind of where the rubber meets the road and how it all connects. Because vulnerability is at the core of shame and the struggle to feel worth, right? The struggle that, am I worthy? Am I worthy enough? So we were going to do a Q&A thing. We want to do a Q&A thing, but I had more questions in here, but I'm going to kind of fast track it because I want to save some time for that. So she shared a picture in the thing of a Roman arena. So imagine the gladiator going in and they're going to be facing another gladiator or a lion. What are they going to be feeling? Well, fear, self-doubt, comparison, anxiety, uncertainty, right? Again, not different than the emotions we feel when we go to do our business every day, like the same emotions. And what did they do to prepare for battle? When they physically had to get ready for battle, what did they do? They put on armor. They got a sword. They protect themselves. So when they put on all their armor and they go out, can they feel the sun? No. Can they feel the butterfly that lands on them? No. If someone snuck up behind them and gave them a hug, could they feel that? Probably not. Their armor was really heavy. It was big. So when they put on that armor to protect them from the bad things, they protected themselves from a lot of the good things, or they kept themselves from a lot of the good things. And that is literally emotionally what happens when we try to numb things out. She talks about numbing a lot. We're not going to get into that because there's just too much to unpack. But when we suffocate things out and we push things out, we're pushing out the bad with the good. Now, here's the language, and this is where, and again, she talks about it briefly. The book explains it really well. But your brain cannot differentiate between the emotions it's suppressing. Your brain doesn't think of your emotions as good or bad. They all serve a function. Anxiety serves a function. If your kid is out, if they're supposed to be home at 7 and it's 9 o'clock and you're anxious, there's a reason. Your mama instincts are telling you this doesn't make sense. When you're afraid, there's a reason. So even the negative emotions, they all serve a function. So you can't just suppress the bad. So when something happens and you push it away too quickly, and we often do this with our kids, think about the example of when they fall and they hit their head and you say, oh, you didn't hurt yourself, you're fine. And you're trying to push them out of that place. They suppress it, they get grumpy, they get whiny, and eventually they cry, and they cry for a long time. If you look at them and say, oh my gosh, did you hurt your head? They're probably going to cry, but it's honestly going to be over 30 seconds. It takes us 30 seconds to have an emotion. So when we have the critics in the arena coming and yelling at us and telling us that we're, all the awful people that we are, and we say, well, I don't care what they think. We've been taught that's a good thing. Well, we just shouldn't care what they think. But it's really not, because if you actually numb yourself out to that and you truly don't care what they think, you're pushing out the good too. You're going to not be able to connect with people. You're not going to be able to be authentic with people, right? You're pushing out the good and the bad. You're hiding yourself. You're covering up all the emotions. You're numbing everything. And so the people who have learned not to feel the hurt and not to feel the pain, they also don't feel joy. They don't feel the happy things, right? Because you've just numbed absolutely everything out. So the point that she makes in there, and we'll kind of get to, she had one point and I kind of brought up two more, and then we'll maybe share a couple stories, unpack it a little bit, is we do have to listen to what the critics say. We do. And if you think about it, who's your own worst critic? I'm mine. So if I ignore all the critics, I'm ignoring me. And sometimes I have things to warn myself of, right? So at the core, we do, but we don't have to let it impact us, right? So when you say fully, I do not care, that's its own special piece of stuff that you have to deal with, right? So how do you deal with this? How do you deal with the emotion, the vulnerability, all of the things? Number one, reserve a seat for the critics. Reserve a seat for them. Tell them you're invited here. I'm not necessarily going to listen to you. This is my thing. I believe in what I'm doing, and I'm doing this. If you would like to be here, I would love to have you in this arena. But if not, that's okay. I'm not going to choose. I'm going to choose to probably not listen to you then. Right? It's okay to invite people in. Think of where they're coming from. The place they're coming at to criticize is they're looking for something from you. They either have a lack of belief in themselves, or they want to tear you down. And by inviting them to the table and saying, we can have a conversation about this, but if you stay here and I stay here, it can just be something we don't talk about. And that's okay. That's okay with me. Right? And then they get to choose, but we're not pushing them out. We're not numbing them down. We're not trying to not hear them, because we will. And before that, it's okay to admit, you guys, that it hurt us. Like, it's okay to be an adult woman and say that hurt my itty bitty tiny little feelers. That's okay. Because once you admit it does, you're going to feel sad. You're going to have a little cry, or whatever you do, you're going to work through it, and then you're going to get through it. So it's okay to sit. Remember, one of the things she said, there is strength in being vulnerable about what affects you, right? Like, there is strength in that. So it's okay to let that happen. Decide ahead of time, what are you going to do when the haters come? Do you have a podcast, a worship song, a psalm you like to read, someone you need to talk to? Sometimes voicing it out loud. Voice memos are amazing. You guys, are some people that you go to someone because you're frustrated, and by the time you're done the voice memo, you've solved your problem. You just needed to be heard, and knowing that they're going to listen eventually, that's all it needs. Just knowing. Okay. So decide ahead of a time that there will be critics, because you guys, if you're going for diamond, if you're going for business, if you're going for a life of greatness, if you're going to be courageous, whether it's as a believer or as a mom or whatever, you will be attacked. People will come at you. People will criticize it. People will not like it. You're putting yourself out there. So if you know ahead of time it's going to happen, you decide you're going to be okay with that, and you make a plan to deal with it, you're going to be way better off. And you need to be kind with yourself. Do not hide this from yourself. There's this Moby Dick quote. I started five years ago, I started reading 100 books. I think it was more like 10 years ago, 100 books to read before you die. And I think book number 10 was at Moby Dick. And I started that one 5 years ago, and I'm only halfway through. But it has amazing quotes. Herman Melville is way smart for his time. This is my all-time favorite quote. When a man suspects any wrong, it sometimes happens that if he be already involved in the matter, he insensibly strives to cover up his suspicions, even from himself. So when you've committed, you'll basically lie to yourself to get the answer that you want on the surface. That's basically what it's saying. So you have got to know ahead of time that you're going to be a critic of yourself, and that's not bad to look critically. It's not bad for someone to look and say, you could tweak this, you could do that. Just don't give them too much headspace. The second thing you're going to want to do is check your core values. When people criticize you, it's because they're not aligned with the same values as you are. If someone does not believe in natural health, if they're a doctor who only does that, they're not going to listen to what you say. If someone someone might judge you for staying home with your kids, if they value money, vacations, work, if they value different things, it doesn't make you right and them wrong, or them right and you wrong. It means there's different values. And a lot of us don't know what our values are. So we pick other people's values. And then when things don't align, our feelings get hurt. If you know your 3 or 4 core values, if you know what they are, you will do what lines up with them, and what doesn't line up with them, it just doesn't matter. And when people criticize you, it's not personal. They're coming at it from a different place of values. They don't value the thing that you value. And it just means you're coming at it from a different place, right? Be authentic in your values. There's actually a list of 100 core values. I'll find it somewhere and I'll pop it somewhere and go through it. Spend a Sunday afternoon and go through it and be like, what are my values? What are my life values? Is it family, friends, faith? Like Bob Heilig's figured out, it's to love, to serve, to grow. If things don't fall in that, he doesn't do it. He did a podcast on that. It's easy. Okay, great. Find your 3 values and line yourself up with that. Number 3, find one person you can be honest with, that they can be honest with you. They can look at you and say, yes, Paige, you actually did a really interesting job. That was, you kind of fuddled that, but you know what? I love you. And you're going to have to do it again next week. So let's practice. I'll listen to you. Let's do it together. Right? You don't want people just to pat you on the back and always say, great job. Did you do that with your kids? No, you say, I love you. I'm so glad you tried, but let's work on this so that you can be better. So that was way longer. When I read through this, it took me 7 minutes. So there you go. That was a lot. Go watch those 2 things, or 20 minutes each. Watch them both. And what are your thoughts, questions? What are you going to do differently based on what you heard tonight? It's a lot. It's heavy, right? Like you're looking at all kinds of things, but at the core, if you don't figure out how to be authentically you, you're never going to just not make it in this business, but you're never going to find that fulfilling place of life that you want to come from, because you're going to be chasing the next dream and you're going to get there and it's not going to feel good because it's not your dream, right? Not shame yourself when you are where you're at. Absolutely. Be courageous to not shy away from what might seem hard or scary. Yeah. And you guys can unmute and talk, like if you want to flush these out.
I feel like we covered like the main basics. I don't know about you guys, but I've been waiting for someone to do a social media challenge like this forever. And that doesn't mean that I agree with everything that Lori Harrison is saying. I am not Lori Harrison. I will never be Lori Harrison, but her message is you teach yourself to be you, and that's how you show up. And that is what brings people to you. And for too long, I feel like in the beginning of social media, that's what people did because they didn't know otherwise of how to show up besides being themselves. And then there was curated versions. And then there was, other people that were getting more attention, like Shelley was saying. And then we start being more like them because, oh, look at them. People like her. Let's do what she's doing. Oh, that's successful. Let's do what she's doing. And people are running around in a maze, have no idea where they're going or how they'll get there, but they're following someone who has gotten there, which is never going to get them there because it's not being true to themselves. And so I feel like I have a million examples of this over the years of doing this business, but the one point that I would like to drive home is it's not going to look perfect. It'll be messy. It'll be some things that you think are going to be amazing will just fall flat and not be what you wanted them to be. And some things that you didn't think was a big deal at all is going to be a big deal. And you're going to find places of where it's hard to show up, but you know that when you do, and when you show up well, just being yourself, that's what's going to speak the loudest to people, to your team, and most of all to yourself. Because at the very end of the day, you lie down at night and what you have put out there is what people think you are. Make sure it is, right? Like, make sure that is you that they are hearing. I loved what she spoke today on what tone are you using. Sometimes when you scroll past a post, you can hear that person speak in your brain when you know them because they're speaking so authentically. You're reading, but you're reading it in their tone of voice. You hear them speaking to you. That's what you want to get.
Does anyone, because this is just isn't in posting, guys. This is like in everything. When someone messages you, when someone asks you a question. Like when people are like, don't use hey girl messages. I have a friend that was hey girling me before hey girl was a thing. So if she stopped doing that, I'd be like, where's my hey girl? Right? Like just however you talk, whatever you do, conversational connection. And that's whether you're talking to the person in the grocery store or whether you're DMing someone or whether you're going somewhere like connecting with anyone, going out for dinner, just being yourself and genuinely caring about people and taking that into your social media and taking that into your business and pairing it, because we all have this need for connection and for acceptance, and we mess up all the time. Like, I mean, I see all these things on Instagram of people being like, oh, I'm the awkward girl that, you say things, blah, blah, blah. So if everyone's liking it and commenting and going, oh my gosh, me too. So obviously we're all awkward people saying the wrong things at the wrong moment, but we love each other for it and we're okay with it. Right. So what are the pieces of you that you haven't embraced? What are the pieces of you, or what pieces have you made up because you think it's better? You knew someone that was like this and you couldn't stand how they made you feel. So you're like, I'm not going to be like this. I'm going to be like this. And you've embraced this so much that you've lost who you are and you become something that no one even wants to be around because you're trying so hard not to be this. It's like that funny saying, I tried so hard as girls. I tried so hard not to be my mom when I grew up that I turned into my dad, right? Like you just kind of, you're embracing that. There's so many ways we can embrace ourselves and hide who we are, because then if someone says they don't like me when I'm being loud and irritating and not me, then it's safer than when you're being yourself and someone doesn't like you. And that's why a lot of us put on a mask, because it's easier to be criticized, because you can be like, yeah, I didn't really like myself in that moment either. It was kind of a dumb thing to say, oops, and you kind of dismiss it. But when we're being us, it's really hard. Paige, do you want to expand on that?
Sure. We have these friends. This happened in St. Albert, but we were at Home Depot and they were from like our church group, and we saw them. Breton and I, whenever we see people we meet, we're like, oh my goodness, you shop here too. What project do you have going on? And so we went over to them and we're like, hey friends, what are you buying? And like, what project do you have going on? What are you this? And we stood around talking for some time, and they just said, you guys are the same. And we're like, what? What do you mean the same? And they're like, but you talk to us at church and then you talk to us at Home Depot. And I'm like, isn't that like what normal humans do? And they were shocked. They were like, yeah, no. They're like, we know a lot of people who like they'll talk to us and put on like a Sunday face, and then they will not even acknowledge our presence. And I thought, man, I never want to live life that way. Never. To have certain masks for certain occasions or certain days of the week or certain grocery stores. Like if I run into literally anybody in any store, you're gonna know I'm there. Like if we're friends, I'm gonna find you. It happens. We know people who shop at Costco every Friday night. We find them. Not every Friday night, but we know they're there. We see them. We talk to them. We're normal, and we're the same at church. We're the same in sports. We're the same in whatever. And it just is, I think it's key for any kind of trust building, right? Because then people are like, oh yeah, that's the Stonehawkers. They're just normal. Well, I mean, I think I'm normal, but they're thinking, oh, like there they go. And they're the same. And she talks this way and he talks that way, but they're always lovely and they always want to serve people, which we do. And anyway, I could go on forever, but I mean, it quite surprised me that people put different faces on for different people and don't talk to certain people and avoid them. And I just thought, man, if you're in my world and if I know you and I see you, I'm gonna make sure I talk to you. I'm gonna make sure of it. So the Costco stalkers, yep, it's us. Come to Okotoks, it's us.
That is awesome, Paige. Barb made
Yeah.
a comment there. Barb made a comment on the things we often don't like about ourselves are the things that make us us. And I found a post, a reel, an article, something today, and I stopped and I scribbled it down because I had just gone through Lori's videos and stuff. I'm quickly going to, I don't even know if I can read it because I wrote so fast, but I think I got the gist of it. And it made so much sense because this is often where the lack of vulnerability starts. So when you think negatively of yourself, you assume other people believe the same things about you. And therefore, when people do things that reaffirm your own thoughts about yourself, small things, small actions, you'll believe that they believe the same thing that you believe about yourself. And therefore, you will then blame them for thinking these thoughts when you're thinking those thoughts. So you're creating a reality that is negative about you in your own mind. And then you're looking and finding the version of you in other people, even if they don't believe it. Only because you thought it, right? Because that's the version of you. Instead of looking and going and saying, I think they think I'm wonderful, you think they think I'm ugly and fat. Like I think, that was just the example that she used. They think I'm stupid. You are your own worst enemy. Love yourself. Like so often these verbiages, like they said to you, Paige, oh, you guys are the same people. These verbiages start in your own brain. They probably thought you were other people in church or in Costco, right? Like, it's so funny. Like, so often you can backtrack and you can see it starts in the person's brain.
Yeah. And it goes back to that little ball of who you were before the world told you. Like, there was this quote, I don't know how it goes, but basically, what was the first time or who told you that the thing you love about yourself, you shouldn't? Right? Like, we embrace, like, think of kids who are just like, I think of my one niece who's just like big personality. And she's like, she walks into a room and she's like, I am the best person here. I love me and I'm fun and I'm cute and you're so happy I'm here. Well, she's little, so that's a bit much as an adult. You wouldn't say that, but she just walks into the room with that. And don't lose those things. Like, don't lose those things about you that you, at one time, the things you hate, you loved, and then someone told you you shouldn't. Right. And then what Marge says, it's so true. And I've had adult people say things to me like, well, I assumed you wouldn't want me here, or I assumed you didn't want, or I assumed you wanted to. No, don't put thoughts into my brain because you have insecure issues. That's not on me. That's on you. And so owning those things and understanding where it comes from and having compassion with yourself. Don't beat yourself up, but just be like, okay, it's because I want to fit in and I want to belong and I'm worried about not being connected. So how can I create that connection? And then how can we create that connection for other people when we go to these events, when you go to the summit? Yes, we want to sit with our friends, but include outsiders. Find someone, we were at a wedding one time and there was this guy sitting at a table all by himself. And my sister went up to him and said, like, I'm married, so I'm not hitting on you, but there's 8 of us. We have an extra seat. We're having a ton of fun and you're alone. Do you want to come with us? And all of his work friends ditched him and he was going to have the supper and leave. That was like 10 years ago. We now call him our adopted cousin, Chase. And we literally all adopted him that night. And he became a cousin to all of us. And he's like, that was the best thing ever. And it was all because Pamela looked around and was like, oh, it's not just about us. What about this person? Do that, right? Like, think of other people, do that. I'm not sure how that connects with that, but it probably does somehow. So before we wrap it up, is there any other thoughts? Like, this was a lot, you guys. I'm really hoping that you're not quiet because you weren't listening or you were bored. I hope that you're processing. Let's keep processing it in the chat together and go watch those things. If you're not in that challenge, maybe we can, I'm scared to add links now. She's like, don't add links to stuff. So now I don't want to wreck Abundant Wellness. I'm like, how do I add a link? Maybe we'll pop it in the messenger chat and we can pin them. Maybe that's what we'll do. They're each 20 minutes. There's 2 of them. She does a way better job. I kind of took bits of it and we were trying to make it relevant to us. But before we call tonight, is there any last thoughts, revelations, ways you're going to move forward differently, anything?
I think I'm just want to add that it's just important that, we understand that our progress in all of this is an inside job. And it's something that we can't look outside for, right? So for each of us, it's going to look different. And the worst thing we can do is compare ourselves to each other because the ultimate goal is not to be like someone else. It's to find the authentic you. So
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah. And she talks more about comparison. She has 4 people that she invite that are at the arena, and it's really good to listen, but that's so amazing, Trina. Yeah, that you have to, you have to do the work here, and no one can do this for you. And that's the hard thing about this. And when you have teams and you can see in your teams, you want people to get here and they aren't doing it, you can't do that work for them. Everyone has to do it. It looks like Sheila said something really smart. Yeah, that's why you track. Yeah, exactly.
well, and it's true, because I find anybody new that kind of gets started, they're like, okay, tell me all the things. And I'm kind of guilty of this. I'm just like, okay, what do I need to do when? And give me a detailed plan of step by step and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, slow it down, girl. Like you are so out to lunch. And but it's something I just shared how to make meatballs this morning or something in my post. And so I had people like, oh, I just do this. I'm like, oh, like, and it just gives me a little twitch when it's like, you just wing it? Like, really? Like, we have to have a plan. We have to have a set up plan. And, and so anyways, it's funny because my mom would know me the best because she's always like, she's a wing it, even with a recipe. Like, she doesn't even have a recipe. And I think I've talked to a few of you about this, where you don't even follow it. Like, how on earth do you make something amazing without a recipe? Anyway, I'm learning to give myself a little grace, but it's kind of a joke in our family where it's like, mom gave me a recipe one time and she was like, okay, stir, put it in the microwave for this many seconds, stir. And then and she wouldn't have done this unless I specifically asked. So it's just hilarious because I'm working with myself on that, but it's hilarious how I work. And that's what we learn about ourselves, right? So it's just kind of a little tidbit about me. And yeah, I get a little twitch still, but I'm starting to wing it a little bit. You'd be proud.
Good job, Trina. But you're perfect, like that part of you allows you to be able to pack a really large amount of stuff in a really small suitcase every time because you do it the same every time, right? I think this is something good to keep this conversation going with each other, with smaller groups of people that you might be close with in here in our business chat. Like, let's just keep thinking about this. And I would really highly encourage you go for a walk, have a bubble bath, and listen to these because she says them really well. And if you're interested in this, I haven't read Daring Greatly, so I can't speak to it, but Atlas of the Heart is really, really good. And it really helps you understand your customers, you, life. It's just really good. So I'll just want to read these. Everyone's just twitching. Okay, that's all good. That's good. We can twitch. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for coming. And we will see you not next week, March, not next week because it's Easter Monday.
Easter Monday next week, so the week after that, which is month end already.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay, 2 weeks. See you at 2 weeks here for month end. Okay, have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.